If you're sick and tired of begging for attention from your husband and getting the crumbs under the table when you'd like to be sitting at the table enjoying the feast of his attention that you deserve, well, I can't wait to share today's podcast. I've got 4 tips for you that are going to help you feel like you're getting so much attention and you're going to feel desired and taken care of and special. And if that sounds too good to be true, check it out. This has already worked for me and thousands of other women. I've got 4 tips for you. You especially want to tune into number 4. I'm Laura Doyle, New York Times bestselling author and marriage mentor. This is the Empowered Wife podcast where real women share exactly what they did and said to make their hopeless marriages playful and passionate. If you're listening on audio, come on over to YouTube so you can subscribe here and join the conversation in the comments below. Just do a search for Laura Doyle. I want to find out something about you. What are some of the ways that you have tried to get your husband's attention? Like when he's glued to his phone or watching the game, or you can't get him to come home from work, and you just want his attention. What are some of the ways that you have tried to get him to pay attention to you? Share in the comments below. I'd love to find out. One of the problems that comes up when you're having to beg for your husband's attention because he won't give it to you willingly, I still remember what that was like, is you start to feel needy all the time. Like you can never get enough. You're like gasping for his attention and it feels so yucky. In fact, I remember it really impacting my self-worth and made me question if I was even lovable. If the man who swore to love me in front of God and everybody couldn't do it, maybe there was something wrong with me. Made me feel worthless. And if you're feeling that way too, I just want to help you get out of that right now, because it's not that you're not lovable. It's not that you're too needy. It's not that you're worthless. It's just that nobody ever showed you the skills that you need to have a great relationship, to stop begging for his attention and have him be inspired to give you all of it like he used to when you were first falling in love. Or even if he never gave you all of his attention, this is going to inspire him to feel like he can't get enough of you. You're going to see he's going to come at you. So let's get to it. Here's the number one thing that you probably just don't know and no one's ever taught you. And if you're anything like I was, you think you do know. I thought I knew about this. You're going to want to use the best aphrodisiac on the planet for men. And what I mean by that is you're going to want to restore respect. And if you're anything like me, you're going, I know respect. I know you're supposed to respect your husband. Women are supposed to respect their husband. And you might even think that you are doing that just like I did. I knew that I was respectful about everything except for maybe the way he dressed and the way he drove. And I thought he should try to make more money. And I just had a few other little things that I wanted to improve about my husband. And that was not respectful at all. And because respect is like oxygen for men, I was like smothering my husband with a pillow. And it's hard to give someone attention when you're getting smothered with a pillow. Whew. But I didn't know. I didn't know what respect looked like or how to restore it. And that's why I want to share this cheat phrase, which is going to sound a little crazy to you. It did to me. But I'm going to share it with you anyway, because you wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you didn't think that having a great relationship was important, if you weren't willing to learn and strengthen your marriage. And I got to tell you, I really admire that. I feel like the world needs more women like you who are open to crazy suggestions like this one I'm about to tell you. All right, here's the cheat phrase for restoring respect in your marriage that I use all the time. So you want to reflect back on a time that you might have been disrespectful, right? Like I'll give you a little story about me. One time we were out to dinner and John was telling me about something about his work. And then I made a comment about one of his clients, kind of putting down that client. And all of a sudden, like our great conversation, our good night out that we were having, it came to a screeching halt. It felt like the restaurant fell silent and the look on my husband's face got all serious and kind of stressed. And nobody was laughing around us and we weren't laughing anymore. It just kind of all felt tense all of a sudden. And I remember thinking at that moment, like, oh, what just happened? But because I know about this cheat phrase, I knew what to do. I wasn't totally ready to be accountable yet, but I said to him, was I disrespectful just now? And he was like, yeah. And then I said this cheat phrase. All right, you ready? I said, I apologize for being disrespectful when I tried to control how you treat your clients at work. Because that is disrespectful, right? The subtext of that is you don't really know how to run your business. You're not really very capable. You're not as smart as me, who doesn't know anything about your business, but really has a strong opinion about how you should run it, right? I don't know why I was being so arrogant, but looking back, it's really not how I wanted to show up. Feels kind of yucky to be disrespectful. So I was so glad I had this cheat phrase to reach for, because as soon as I said those words, our good time came back. My husband was smiling again, and the music came back and the laughter. Our good time was saved. I didn't ruin our evening by saying something that was unwittingly disrespectful. So that cheat phrase again is, I apologize for being disrespectful. I know. You're thinking, are you kidding me? This man's not even paying attention to me. I have to beg for attention. Why would I apologize to him for being disrespectful? But it's kind of amazing what you can do single-handedly to fix your relationship if you're willing to at least experiment, right? I apologize for being disrespectful. And then you want to fill in the thing that you did or the thing that you said or the way you rolled your eyes, right? Some disrespect is not words at all. Sometimes it's been the way I laughed at what he said dismissively, or I walked away in the middle of what he was saying, or I complained about the way he did something, criticized him for doing things his way. I'm not proud to admit that I have done those things, and I still do those things, even after practicing being respectful for over 20 years. But I'm happy to know how to clean up my side of the street when that happens. The second thing that's going to help you stop having to beg for your husband's attention and just have him be so ridiculously attentive, you won't even know what to do with all that attention. You might start to think, hey, back off a little. I'm trying to listen to my favorite podcast, or I want to take a bath by myself because he'll be so attentive. I'm not kidding about this. Is to start expressing your gratitude. And what I mean by that is to find things that he does that you appreciate, that maybe things that lighten your load. And you might be thinking, wow, first of all, he doesn't do anything that I appreciate or to lighten my load. And if that's the case, I still remember how that felt. I thought, I'm doing everything around here and no one's appreciating me. And I don't see why I should have to thank him, why I should have to stroke his ego. But when I opened my eyes a little wider, I could see my husband actually did a lot of things that did lighten my load. He took care of the cars. He worked hard to support the family, even though I worked too. But I appreciated that, if I was honest and willing to be a little bit vulnerable too. And I appreciated that he would take care of the backyard, right? He would take care of the yard. So when I started finding those things and saying at least 3 things a day that I appreciated about him, it was crazy how much more he wanted to do for me and how much he wanted to interact with me when I was thanking him for the ways that he was helping me. So, for example, my husband does all the dishes at our house, and every day I go out and say, wow, this kitchen is ridiculously clean. I mean, this is amazing. Who cleaned this kitchen? Because I absolutely love it. And of course, he continues to do them every day because he knows it makes me happy and he feels so appreciated. So it's really helped with him being more attentive because he knows what I like and what I appreciate. And it's done double duty because it's really made me see how much my husband does contribute to my happiness. All right, the number 3 way that you are going to find yourself overflowing with attention from your husband and not having to beg ever is by learning to trigger his hero gene. Now, you might be thinking, well, my husband actually doesn't have a hero gene. He doesn't care about what I want or what I need. I've tried telling him and he just doesn't respond. I remember how hard that was and how sad and how hopeless I felt when that was happening at my house too. Nobody should have to live like that. But here's the good news. I have a few cheap phrases that you can use to trigger his hero gene. He really does have one. Maybe just no one ever taught you how to trigger it. All right. So I want to give you this phrase that I use, I think, almost every day around my house. Right. I say, I would love to borrow your brain. And then I share a challenge I'm having or a problem or something that is upsetting me. And I ask him for his input or his feedback or his support in solving it. Now, you might think that could be a little dangerous because then my husband will just give me some advice that's random, that doesn't fit for me at all. But the key here is to not just ask to borrow his brain, but then to continue to engage by telling him your desires. So, for example, I was sharing with my husband recently that I wanted to improve my video studio. I wanted to look cooler on YouTube, right? And so he came up with some suggestions and some ideas for what I could do. And not all of them were quite right for what I wanted. So I had to keep going. I kept having to say, like, well, I'd love to keep my video studio at home. Or I would love to have the ability to blur the background. I would love to have a better camera. Those kinds of things. And then the more we talked and the more clear he was about what I wanted, the more excited and inspired he was to come in here and make everything look great. In fact, I'm using my new camera right now. How does it look? Do you like it? So anyway, if you are able to ask to borrow his brain and then listen, just bring a big listening ear and all the rest of your desires that might conflict with the suggestions he's coming up with, you can not only have his attention, you can have his enthusiastic, inspired love and energy all over you. The number 4 thing you're going to want to do to stop begging for attention from your husband is find a tribe that supports you. Because one of the things that can go wrong, and it did go wrong in my marriage, is if you are talking to your girlfriends over margaritas like I was and complaining about how you have to beg your husband to give you any attention, I know what they're going to say because I know what they said to me, which is, you don't deserve that. You should leave. You should find somebody better. You can never make him be more attentive. Just get out. Just break up your family. Just end your marriage, right? That's what we used to say to each other. I said it to them too. So we were all on a downward spiral, a negative spiral, just complaining about our husbands and then giving each other the advice to blow up our families. And thankfully, I couldn't go through with it. I was too embarrassed. I came very close, but instead, I decided to find a tribe of women who would support each other and lift each other up in their marriages and making them magical again. Not just staying in them for the kids where it's kind of just drudgery. No, making marriages where we felt desired and taken care of and special and happy, ridiculously happy. So you can join a free group, my free group, the Adored Wife group, which has thousands of women who are dying to meet you and support you in your quest to stop begging your husband for attention and feel like an irresistible magnet again. You can go to lauradoyle.org/group to join the Adored Wives group. It's absolutely free. And the only requirement is that you have to be willing to stand for everybody else's marriage just as they're standing for yours. Because that's what we're all doing here. We're on a mission to end world divorce and to make marriages strong because the world depends on strong marriages because that's what strong families depend on. So it's really important work that you're doing. And I admire so much that this is your priority. It's mine too. Thanks for being somebody who stands for great marriages. If you love these tips on how I transformed my struggling marriage into one that's playful and passionate, then subscribe to the Empowered Wife podcast. Get the inspiration and the ideas that you need to create a marriage where you feel desired, taken care of, and special. On next week's podcast, my guest is going to share how she fixed her marriage even though she didn't even want to be married anymore. She's going to tell us what she did that changed everything. And in the meantime, I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is that some people think I never curse. But those people obviously have never played volleyball with me. For more on how to make your marriage playful and passionate without his conscious effort, even if it seems hopeless right now, check this out.